This is episode 96 of Standing Out. Standing Out is a remarkable interview-style podcast with the intention to highlight women and men making outstanding contributions in their field. Today, I'd like to welcome Greg Greenstreet. Greg is a 25-plus-year veteran of software engineering, directing scientific and commercial applications across aerospace, telecommunications, storage, and most recently in social media. In the last 15 years, Greg has built and directed engineering teams in Boulder's startup community. Greg helped found and serve as CTO at Collective Intellect, a social media analytics firm which was purchased by Oracle. He then took on the role of VP of Engineering at NIP, supplying a fire hose. Or is it GNIP?
GNIP.
GNIP, thank you. I didn't know if the G was silent. At GNIP, supplying a fire hose of social media data from publishers such as Twitter, WordPress, Tumblr, Foursquare, Disqus to 95% of the Fortune 500. With GNIP's acquisition by Twitter, Greg is now a director of engineering for the Cortex machine learning organization within Twitter. Greg holds a bachelor's and master's in computer science and teaches as an adjunct professor at the University of Colorado. He also serves on the advisory board for the Department of Computer Science at CU. Greg is a regular mentor for both TechStars and MergeLane accelerators, as well as being actively engaged with many local diversity groups such as CU Women in Computing, NCWIT and Flatirons LGBTQ. Greg, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. I feel like you burned like half the podcast just reading my bio. That was
That's, you know what? I tell you what, I tell you, some of you guests that we have on the show, your bios are so incredible. Like when I get them, I'm like, well, there's nothing to really cut. Like we kind of need to say all of this. So good job on creating such an awesome
Well, I think it's more like I've been on the planet for a long time.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
You just keep adding it up.
Yeah.
What got you interested in computer science in the first place?
Actually, this was many moons ago, and I graduated in high school in 1985.
Okay.
And I was taking a calculus course in high school, and I was a little bored in it. And at the time, my calculus teacher said, "Hey, why don't you try this new Apple computer thing?" And so I ended up writing a basic program to do the check-in system for the local library, and I guess the rest is history from there.
Oh my gosh. No, that's really cool. 1985, you did that.
Yeah.
What is it like? So you live and work primarily in the Boulder community, right?
I do. I got my start in Denver, and then I went to Europe for a while, and then I came back to Boulder in 2001.
What's it like going from a rapid growth startup to Twitter? Like what's
Twitter may be more easier transition, but it's definitely hard to go from a small startup where you can pretty much put everyone in the minivan to go to lunch to
right.
Watching Jack Dorsey address 4,000 people at a time, which I did like a week and a half ago.
Oh my gosh.
So it's there's good things and bad things like most things in life, but
sure.
I try to focus on the positive and just really enjoy the kind of global reach of the brand.
Yeah.
And positive, especially with Twitter in the world, you have a unique opportunity to kind of facilitate civil discussion in the world and create a better place for people to kind of meet in the middle. I think we've all seen a lot of polarity recently in the world, and
for sure.
And that's one of Twitter's main focuses at the moment is to create civil discourse in the world.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we're applying massive resources to create healthy conversations and kind of mute the people on the extremes on both sides and bring more conversation to
wow.
where we can start to just understand each other a little better, even if we don't politically align or whatever.
Yeah. Is that done through, and I realize, so tell me if I ask anything that the answer would be proprietary and you can't answer, but is that done mostly through algorithms, or how is that money?
Yeah, so I mean, we definitely employ a lot of people who end up reviewing cases of abuse and neglect on the platform. There's usually a human at the end of the loop, but in the middle of that, the team I work with, the machine learning group, the Cortex group, does a great deal to enable, kind of machine learning in every part of the company, whether it be detecting abuse or helping people onboard and have a better experience, or even now when you go to your home timeline in Twitter, that is not just reverse chronological order anymore. It's actually culled and curated by algorithms trying to understand what content you're most interested in and bringing the most relevant content to the top. So it's kind of in every corner of Twitter at this point.
Yeah. So, and that's all within the machine learning?
Well, the machine learning group builds these capabilities, and then the product teams then apply them kind of throughout the company, and even to what ads are placed in your timeline, right? Like, are trying to target well. So,
do you feel like, I mean, when did Twitter start? Was it 2005 or 6?
Yeah, so I was trying to think the other day. I think it was, I founded a company called Collective Intellect that did social media analytics, and that was in 2005, and Twitter didn't yet exist. So I would put the birth date in 2006, I believe.
Okay, so like a 12-year-old company with obvious global reach, massive scalability. What would you say is like, if you look at Twitter 2006 to Twitter now 2018, how has that shifted from a user standpoint? Like, are we still using it kind of the same, but now there's new tools and features, or do we as users do something totally different than we did in 2006?
I think in 2006 it was just so nascent and people didn't really understand social media.
Right. It's like, what do I do?
I think there's definitely ecosystems that have developed over time. Like Black Twitter is one that's like super prominent in the world. Like you don't really know it unless you're in it. We just had a speaker at our gathering a week and a half ago. Goddess came in from New York City, and she spoke about the effect of Twitter in their community and how they use it for just communicating with one another and taking stands on issues. And so I think that's just one example of many communities that have formed. I think that the tool itself certainly has gotten better, but I think it's more people's usage of it and their understanding of that kind of power of free speech.
Yeah.
It's fueled revolutions in countries. It's been, really, in the West, we look at it as, maybe, we're tweeting about some mundane detail of our lives, but in many parts of the world, it's the only form of free speech available to them. And
wow. Yeah.
Twitter, people probably don't realize that, but Twitter goes to bat for their users all over the world and goes to court to protect their users' right for access to the platform. And even in the United States, we have, I think, ongoing lawsuits against the United States government as they solicit us for information about, our users. We take one of our key values as a company is defending the user's voice. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
That's, you know what, and I love hearing that, and I think our audience would love hearing that, because I do feel like social media often gets a bad rap, but I do think most of the social media platforms as companies now are really working to protect our voice and protect freedom of speech and all of that, and and taking actions that that on a day-to-day when you log into the platform you probably don't think of,
Yeah, and Twitter doesn't, the other thing that we try to do is we try not to be the arbiters of what's right and wrong in the world. And so we've recently put out RFPs to many groups to help us decide, where if somebody's expressing their own opinion crosses the line into abuse. And so we're looking for actually outside help, because we ourselves recognize the danger of us having that power in the world of which voices get heard and which don't. And so we want to divorce ourselves from that and let that be a larger consortium of academics and other people who help us decide, what is healthy free speech and what is not in the world. So
right. Well, that's awesome. Let's go back to the startup community. So you've had 2 startups get acquired by large companies. Tell us about that journey and what that's like.
So it's number one, it's, when your startup gets acquired by a larger company, that's a win, right? They don't always
exciting.
I've had many companies not get acquired, so I've been on the other side of that coin.
Okay.
And learned quite a bit there, but it's usually more of a culture shock for the the team, especially if they're younger engineers, they just haven't been through that cycle before. And, you know, there's a lot of bureaucracy of any company of any size that's a bit overwhelming. But like I said before, it comes with some positives as well as your kind of ability to influence, you know, larger parts of the world and things out there, right? You know, to work on Twitter and affect, you know, 335 million people every day is a pretty cool job.
Yeah. So what would you say, like, how do you go about getting acquired? Is there a person within the company that is actively seeking out potential opportunities, or do these, or is it more inbound? Like something comes to you and you analyze whether that's a good fit?
It can be either. The healthiest companies and the most successful acquisitions I've been a part of is where the management team isn't focused on acquisition, where they're focused on building a solid business. And then those opportunities then come inbound to them just based on sheer momentum. There are certainly many startups in the world where, you know, when you start the company, you're kind of eyeing a market and already figuring out who could buy you. And but my personal experience has been that if you get too distracted too early with like what your exit strategy is, you often don't execute on the mission that you're out there for. So I think it's healthier to just focus on creating a healthy business and then let those, you know, kind of opportunities appear organically.
That makes sense. What do you like about being an adjunct professor?
Well, I, you know, first and foremost, I enjoy the students. It's there. I think someone, I don't know who said it. If you want to get excited about what you do again, go teach it to a beginner. And so I get that chance every year. I had 128 students this spring at CU, and then I got my degree some time ago from CU in '92. I got my master's, and so it's a chance for me to kind of give back to the university and the local Boulder community.
That is such a beautiful campus.
And it's just nice to, you know, I spend my entire life around like software people. It's nice to get out and just kind of meet, you know, new people and be in different circles of the academics. And, you know, it's certainly, you know, an amazing recruiting channel for me as well. I've hired many students out of my classes, but more than anything, I think it's just bringing a bit of variety to my routine.
Well, and what a cool thing to be able to hire students too. You know, that's awesome. So as we wrap up, my last question is sort of about thought leadership. So as a thought leader in your space, what's one thing that's on your radar now that you think we'll all be talking about in a year or two from now, sort of as like a hot topic or a trend? Like what's,
I think, you know, I think the recent issues with Facebook, and Twitter certainly has to pay attention to this as well with data privacy. I mean, with GDPR and in Europe, there's definitely more focus on privacy. And, you know, with, you know, kind of all the abilities to kind of, you know, now fake videos of people speaking about things and the apparent kind of lack of concern for facts in our world. I think that's going to be a real crux for, you know, society in general, because if you can't believe anything anymore, how can you have democracy? How can you have any kind of organized society if there's no value or even ability to discern the truth of something, right? So I think that's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I think that's a real, I mean, I think it's getting more and more on people's radars for sure. And behavior changes with that too. You know, if you suddenly feel like, well, there's nothing on this platform that you can trust, like you kind of don't use it as much because it's not as fulfilling.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I can't speak for our friends at Facebook, but I can kind of assure your audience that data privacy and you know, sussing out fake accounts and fake news is first on Twitter's agenda going forward. We just actually took a hit in the stock market because we deleted some like large amount of fake accounts, and you know, we're looking at the long game there. We want our platform to be healthy and vibrant and be able to be trusted.
Wow, that's really interesting how those sorts of actions affect like stock and things like that.
It's Wall Street's a bit
unforgiving.
But it's okay. In the long run, the stock will go up because of that. Because if we lose the health of our platform, then we have no platform.
Exactly.
So it's first and foremost on our agenda.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Greg, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.